Welcome to Gavin Fun Facts, where the world's strangest truths come to light. Ready to learn something unbelievable?
In the quiet darkness, before night fully embraces the earth, imagine a world so distant, so unfamiliar, yet so crucial to the story of life we know today. This is not a world of humans, nor a world of modern animals, but a world ruled by giants who once dominated the planet for more than 160 million years, the dinosaurs. But before dinosaurs stepped onto the damp soil covered with towering ferns, there was an older, deeper story. A story of a planet rising again from the ashes of the greatest catastrophe in its history. A moment when life returned from the edge of extinction, slow, calm, but unshakably determined. Take a slow breath and let this gentle documentary guide your imagination, because tonight we return to the Mesozoic Era, the opening chapter of the Age of Giants. A world after the Great Destruction. Around 252 million years ago, Earth experienced a cataclysm so devastating that it wiped out over 90% of all life. Silent oceans devoid of fish, forests burned to the ground, no longer echoing with birdsong. Desert landscapes stretched endlessly, as if the planet had lost its color and hope. But, as with every cycle in nature, life slowly found a way back. When the ash from ancient eruptions settled and the scorching heat faded, Earth began to calm down. New rivers formed, cooling lava turned into fertile soil, and the toxic air gradually thinned. From the darkened ground, tiny sparks of life emerged, mosses, ferns, and microorganisms that restarted the long journey of evolution. This was the beginning of the Triassic period, the first chapter of the Mesozoic Era. And here, the stage was being set for the rise of the dinosaurs. The dawn of new rulers. If you were to observe the Triassic world, you might not immediately recognize the early dinosaurs. They did not arrive as giants. They were small, slender, agile, and light. Some were no larger than a chicken or a small dog. They looked nothing like the towering T-Rex or Brachiosaurus that would come millions of years later. But that is the beauty of evolution. Every tiny step lays the foundation for greatness. In the damp, fern-covered forests, small creatures like Eoraptor and Herrerasaurus ran gracefully on their hind legs. These were among the earliest predators to display the body shape that would define the dinosaur lineage. Upright posture, long necks, and swift movement. Though only about a meter long, they were pioneers of a lineage that would one day shake the earth with thunderous footsteps. Meanwhile, early herbivores like Plateosaurus began to roam the land, feeding on lush ferns. They were not monsters, but their presence changed the world. They ate voraciously, spread seeds, and shaped ecosystems in ways no creature had before. Every life form played its role in the quiet symphony of a world being rebuilt. A planet still transforming. In this era, Earth looked nothing like it does today. The continents we know now, Asia, Africa, the Americas, Europe, did not yet exist. All land was fused into a single massive supercontinent called Pangaea. Hot winds swept across its vast deserts. Rainfall was rare. Storms were harsh and unrelenting. But near coastlines and river valleys, life found refuge. Ferns and ancient conifers grew in abundance. Greenish rivers flowed through lowlands, creating pockets of lush ecosystems. Imagine standing among those ferns as evening falls, the air cooling, the sky turning orange-red. Somewhere in the distance, the soft footsteps of a small predator rustle against the leaves. It is a quiet world, yet full of potential. a world preparing for a new era. Bodies built for greatness. One of the reasons dinosaurs eventually dominated Earth was how their bodies evolved. Their legs were positioned directly beneath their bodies, unlike crocodiles or modern lizards, whose legs extend sideways. This allowed dinosaurs to run faster, walk farther, conserve energy, and explore more territory. Their lungs were incredibly efficient, similar to the lungs of modern birds. Air moved in a one-way flow, granting them better oxygen intake and the ability to thrive in hot, dry climates. It was as if evolution had crafted the perfect survivors for a harsh and unpredictable planet. Under the golden red sunset of the Triassic, these early dinosaurs began to grow stronger, smarter, and more adaptable. And with that, they began to claim the land piece by piece. Night in the Triassic. When night settled, the Triassic world became a calm, mystical place. The moon cast a pale glow over forests of tall ferns. A thin mist drifted just above the soil. Rivers whispered softly as they flowed, creating a natural lullaby in the darkness. Small creatures emerged from their hiding places. Ancient insects, glowing like primitive fireflies, fluttered gently through the air. In the distance, a faint cry of a small predator echoed, but it did not disturb the peace. If you were there, you might feel the same serenity you feel now, a world still simple, pure, untouched by human hands. No cities, no lights, no noise, only nature in its most ancient form. And within this tranquility, the first dinosaurs were beginning their long journey toward dominance. Night slowly blanketed the ancient world, spreading a soft blue haze across the primeval continent. In this age, hundreds of millions of years before humankind would walk the earth, the land was ruled not by predators, but by a calmer, gentler giant, the stegosaur. This chapter invites you to step into their serene world, where enormous bodies moved with surprising grace, and every breeze carried the scent of ancient forests and warm earth. A peaceful dawn in deep time. As the first light of morning slipped through fern canopies, it revealed a landscape that looked like a dream. Towering cycads, broad-leafed palms, and giant horsetail plants that swayed gently as though whispering forgotten stories. In the quiet valley below, a herd of stegosaurs slept in a loose circle, massive creatures with plates rising from their backs like rows of ancient shields. Their breaths were deep and slow, each exhale sending thin clouds of mist into the cool morning air. Despite their size, the herd's awakening was peaceful. A young stegosaur nudged its mother softly, while another stretched its neck toward the rising sun, warming its broad body plates to gather heat for the day. In the calm rhythm of their routine, the entire valley felt safe, untouched by fear. The ancient forests they called home. The stegosaurs lived in a world dominated by plants, dense forests that whispered with life. Leaves rustled like soft lullabies as insects hummed in the background. Gigantic ferns arched over the muddy paths the herd often followed, creating natural tunnels of cool shade. These enormous herbivores spent their days grazing quietly. Their beak-like mouths clipped vegetation with slow, deliberate motions. They were gentle eaters, never rushing, never disturbing more than necessary. And wherever they passed, The forest seemed to welcome them, branches shifting, spores drifting, ancient sunlight dancing across their plates. The ecosystem around them thrived in perfect balance. Small reptiles darted beneath their feet, trusting the slow and predictable steps of the giants. Birds from the earliest evolutionary branches perched on low branches, observing the herd with bright, curious eyes. A world of gentle giants. Unlike the later eras filled with fierce hunters, this period was a sanctuary for creatures like the stegosaur. Their existence was built on routine, calmness, and the warmth of the herd. When danger did appear, a distant rumble, a shadow moving between trees, the herd simply gathered closer, forming a protective ring around their young. Their tails, tipped with sharp thagomizer spikes, remained poised but tranquil, only lifting if truly necessary. But most days passed without conflict. The valley's predators seldom targeted the herd, for the giants were too large and too united. Their true strength came not from aggression, but from their steady, unwavering presence. A drowsy evening over the primeval land. As twilight softened the horizon, the stegosaurs returned to their familiar resting area. The air smelled of cooling earth and faint sweetness from crushed plants beneath their heavy steps. One by one, the herd settled into the grass. The forest dimmed, its colors fading into layers of blue and gray, as fireflies drifted among the shadows. Overhead, the first stars shimmered like distant memories of worlds yet to come. The young nestled close to their parents, lulled by the slow, rhythmic breathing of the giants. The adults remained awake only a little longer, watching the forest with calm, half-lidded eyes. Soon, even they drifted into slumber, each breath a peaceful vibration through the ground, each heartbeat an ancient rhythm echoing across millions of years. A world asleep in deep time. Tonight, the Valley of Stegosaurs rests beneath a blanket of prehistoric starlight. Every creature, every leaf, every ancient breeze seems to settle together, forming a harmony that can only be found in the quietest corners of deep time. In this peaceful moment, the world holds its breath. Nothing hunts, nothing flees, nothing disturbs the stillness. It is a perfect night in the age of giants, and you too are invited to drift gently into sleep as the ancient world dreams beside you.
Night settles slowly over the ancient land, bringing with it a deep calm that seeps into the roots of the oldest trees. In that silence, a rhythm begins to echo. Steady, slow, almost like the heartbeat of the earth itself. It is the sound of enormous footsteps, moving with serene certainty. These are the travelers of antiquity, the sauropods, long-necked giants whose journeys once drawn across continents like living rivers. In this chapter, you will walk beside them, quietly, unhurried, drifting through a world once ruled by the largest creatures ever to stand upon the earth. A quiet dawn on the primeval plains. As the sun brushes the horizon, a thin mist dances across the valleys and winding rivers. The air fills with the soft chorus of prehistoric insects, a gentle melody that welcomes the day. Far in the distance, vast shadows begin to move. silhouettes tall enough to blend with the tree line. The sauropods slowly open their calm, ancient eyes. Their enormous bodies, long as houses and tall as towers, are wrapped in earthy colors, mossy greens, stony grays, and muted browns. They stand still in the early morning light, warming themselves quietly, like colossal statues waiting for the warmth of the sun. Then, with slow, graceful motion, they begin to walk. Each step makes the earth tremble, softly, reassuringly, like the world itself breathing beneath your feet. The towering forests they called home. The sauropods move through forests that no longer exist, towering trees rising like pillars meant to hold the sky aloft. Leaves rustle softly as their long necks brush past, creating a sound that resembles a distant whisper. With necks higher than many rooftops, sauropods reach the treetops effortlessly. They feed slowly, gently, pulling hundreds of leaves into their mouths with a calm rhythm that matches the forest's own pulse. They eat not with hunger, but with patience, not with haste, but with harmony. Below them, tiny creatures scurry, completely unafraid. For the small animals of the ancient forest, the footsteps of the sauropods are more like the ticking of a natural clock, steady, predictable, and safe. Migrations that never truly ended. Sauropods were wanderers. They traveled north when the mountains were green, then south when the lowlands blossomed. Their migrations stretched across weeks, slow, unbroken crossings of the landscape. One step might carry them 5 meters forward, yet the movement was never rushed. Their journeys felt less like walking and more like a great, slow dance performed by the earth itself. In the warm colors of the afternoon sun, a herd of sauropods resembles a line of moving hills. Their long necks sway like gentle waves, their massive tails drifting behind them like banners shaped by ancient winds. Their migration wasn't only a search for food, it was a cycle that kept the land alive. Where they walked, plants later grew richer. The soil churned under their feet made room for new life to flourish. Without them, the forests might have grown too dense, too choked to breathe. A soft evening with the gentle giants. As the sun sets, the herd arrives at a vast lake. The surface reflects deep orange and pink, painting the world in a dreamlike glow. The sauropods lower their immense necks with remarkable care, drinking with soft, rippling sounds. Their movements are deliberate, peaceful, as though they understand their size and choose gentleness over power. Young sauropods wander at the water's edge, nudging one another playfully or mimicking the slow, graceful gestures of their mothers. The adults stand around them in quiet vigilance, forming a circle of living guardians. There is no rush, no fear, only the calm rhythm of life as the sky turns purple and blue. Nightfall with the breath of an ancient wind. When night arrives, the air carries the scent of wet leaves, warm soil, and quiet waters. The sauropods gathered together, forming a protective ring with their colossal bodies. They sleep lightly, listening, breathing together, sensing every change around them. Yet tonight, the world is peaceful. No predator approaches, no sound shatters the stillness. The sky above them glows with stars, bright, perfect, untouched by any light but their own. Against this cosmic backdrop, the sauropods become silhouettes like moving mountains, shifting only with the rhythm of their breath. In this ancient stillness, the world feels older, wider, wiser. Closing. A world that once breathed with giants. The night ends with a silence so pure it feels sacred. The sauropods, wanderers of a forgotten earth, rest inside the slow heartbeat of the planet. Every breath they take hums through the land, a sign of harmony millions of years old. Once, long before humans walked the earth, these giants shaped the balance of nature simply by existing. And tonight, as their story settles gently into your thoughts, you are invited to rest in that same peace, with the same quiet, the same calm, the same ancient embrace of the earth.
A gentle night wind drifted across the prehistoric valley, carrying with it the scent of damp earth, fern leaves, and the quiet traces of life hidden in the darkness. Far away, the moon hung low, like an ancient eye watching a world untouched by human footsteps. Tonight, the silence did not belong to emptiness, but to creatures who ruled the land in a way very different from the long-necked giants. Tonight belonged to the theropods, two-legged predators, graceful, swift, and shrouded in mystery. They were not merely hunters. They were living shadows that moved with the wind, slipping between ancient trees with a tension that felt both terrifying and beautiful. Tonight, you will walk beside them, slowly, without fear, in a world shaped by instinct, elegance, and the rhythm of an ancient earth. The silence before movement. Under the pale light of the moon, massive ferns shivered subtly. No footsteps, no cracking twigs, only the strange sensation that the darkness itself was shifting. A small theropod, perhaps a member of the Coulophysis family, stepped out of the shadows. Its body was slender, its tail long and perfectly balanced, its eyes glowing faint silver in the moonlight. It paused, lifting its head high, tasting the air. It wasn't searching for prey, it was reading the night. Not far away, something much larger moved with a grace that contradicted its size. A wide silhouette emerged, an adult Allosaurus, ruler of the valley. But the night had not yet become a hunting ground. For a moment, these predators were not fearsome beasts. They were simply a part of nature, like the wind, the river, and the moon itself. Silent movements of the night hunters. Theropods were creatures that never truly stopped. Even at rest, their bodies remained alert, tails tense, claws gripping soil, eyes scanning every flicker of shadow. Behind thick trees, a small group of ornithischia grazed cautiously, aware that night always carried its risks. They knew predators existed, but also understood that not every theropod was hunting tonight. Some small theropods simply searched for insects or tiny reptiles creeping under fern roots. Larger ones followed the faint smell of old carcasses, serving as nature's silent cleaners. In the ancient world, there were no villains or heroes, only balance. When the giants met. As the moon reached its highest point, dew began to form on the giant fern leaves. Soft droplets fell one by one, creating a slow rhythm like the forest humming its own lullaby. It was then that two enormous shadows met in an open clearing, and a young Allosaurus was feeding on the remains of a long-abandoned carcass. From the opposite side, a massive Ceratosaurus stepped into view, its breath visible as thin clouds in the cold night air. Both predators froze. They stared at each other. No growl, no attack, only evaluation, a language of instinct older than history itself. Tonight, neither wanted a fight. Energy had to be conserved, wounds avoided. After a long moment, both giants slowly turned away, choosing peace over conflict. In this ancient world, survival was not just about strength, it was wisdom. Small theropods, the silent dancers of the ancient forest. Not all theropods were giants. Many were small, no bigger than chickens or dogs, yet astonishingly clever. In this gentle night, a cluster of Compsognathus darted through moss and roots like living sparks of energy. They moved lightly, their tiny feet barely disturbing the forest floor. Every so often, one leapt into the air to snatch an insect. Their motions looked like a delicate dance. No rhythm, yet full of rhythm at the same time. Even in a world as harsh as that of the dinosaurs, moments of softness existed. Small movements, quiet lives, beauty hidden beneath the shadows. When life builds its own harmony. In the heart of the night, it becomes clear that theropods, big and small, are not merely hunters, they are vital threads woven into the fabric of the prehistoric ecosystem. They controlled populations of smaller herbivores. They cleared the land of decaying remains. They kept the balance steady in a world that constantly shifted. Without them, the ancient forests might drown in imbalance. Nature always finds equilibrium, and theropods were an essential part of it. When night draws its curtain. Dew thickened, the wind softened, the sounds of the night slowly faded, replaced by the low, steady breaths of predators drifting to sleep. An adult Allosaurus settled near a small creek, its sharp eyes now closed, its chest rising and falling in a calm, ancient rhythm. Far away, small theropods huddled beneath tree roots for safety. No blood tonight, no chase, only peace. The vast prehistoric forest, stretching beyond sight, became calm, a world breathing quietly under a blanket of stars. Chapter closing. the gentle breath of the ancient predators. As the first blush of dawn touched the sky, theropod silhouettes faded behind the morning mist, like statues dissolving into light. They were not the monsters modern stories portray. They were living parts of a gentle, balanced world, sometimes fierce, but often peaceful. Tonight, you walked with them, and in the darkness of the dinosaur world, you discovered harmony hidden behind instinct. Now, let their soft, ancient breaths guide you into sleep. The predators of deep time are at rest, and so are you. The night descended slowly upon the ancient earth, wrapping the land in a soft and dusky veil. The world of dinosaurs, once filled with roars, thundering footsteps, and vibrant life, seemed strangely calm, as if every creature, big or small, felt something coming. Something that had no name, no shape in their minds, but lingered like a distant warning. Far in the horizon, the sky glowed faintly, a warm orange, then red, then something else. The giant sauropods lifted their long necks, watching the strange light with a mixture of confusion and instinctive fear. Packs of raptors stopped moving, their claws sinking into the soil as they made soft, uncertain calls. Even the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex, king of its era, paused its nightly patrol. There was a stillness that felt unnatural, as if the earth itself was waiting. A quiet world on the edge. For millions of years, life had moved in great cycles. Dinosaurs lived, hunted, migrated, and survived under skies that rarely changed. Storms came, volcanoes erupted, predators fought, but nothing had ever been truly foreign to them. Tonight, though, even the wind carried a different chill. Near a calm riverbank, a triceratops herd settled down. Mothers nudged their young closer, forming a protective ring. The ground vibrated gently, so soft that only the most sensitive creatures felt it. But it wasn't from footsteps, and it wasn't from any creature walking the land. Above the clouds, far beyond the reach of wings or roars, a bright dot appeared, small, cold, and moving fast. No animal lifted its head high enough to see it. No instinct had ever prepared them for something that came from the sky. The air grew warmer, the night grew brighter, and no one understood why. The moment the sky broke open, the glowing object pierced the atmosphere in silence. Then everything changed. A sudden blaze lit up the heavens, turning night into glaring daylight. The light cut through the clouds like a blade of fire, spreading across the world in an instant. Small birds screeched and took flight. Herbivores stumbled, confused and terrified. A sauropod roared, a deep rumble trembling through the ground. A T-Rex froze, its predator instincts useless against something it couldn't hunt. The sky was no longer dark. It was burning. Then came the sound, a scream of the sky itself. A tearing, ripping roar, louder than any volcano. The ball of fire streaked toward the earth, unstoppable, merciless, blinding. Animals fled, but where could they go? This was not a predator they could hide from. This was not a storm they could outrun. This was the end of the world they knew. When the earth screamed back. When the impact came, it was like the planet exhaled one final, furious breath. A flash of white, then heat beyond imagination, then an explosion that shook the continents. The ground convulsed as if alive. Trees snapped like twigs, hills collapsed, forests erupted into flame. Shockwaves blasted across thousands of kilometers, flattening everything in their path. Even the greatest dinosaurs, creatures of immense power, were powerless. A herd of triceratops was lifted off the ground like leaves. Sauropods fell as the earth beneath them split. Raptors, quick and agile, found the ground turning into waves of shaking death. Fire rained from the sky. Ash swallowed the horizon. The world roared in agony. And in that roar, the age of the dinosaurs cracked open. The great darkness. The explosion was only the beginning. Dust and ash rose into the sky, covering the sun in a thick blanket. Day turned to gray. Gray turned to dusk. Dusk turned to night. A cold night. A starving night. A night that lasted for years. Plants withered. Herbivores collapsed. Predators lost their prey. Rivers cooled into shadows. Some dinosaurs wandered endlessly, searching for warmth. Others huddled together, confused by a world that no longer followed the rules of life they once understood. The great kingdom of reptiles dimmed, and slowly, one by one, the giants fell silent. Their roars, once the voice of an entire era, faded into whispers the earth swallowed gently. The last roar. No one knows which dinosaur gave the final cry. Perhaps a lone T-Rex calling out into the cold. Perhaps a Triceratops mourning its dying herd. Perhaps a young creature too small to understand why the world had become so dark. But when the last roar faded, a new silence settled. And from that silence, tiny mammals emerged from hidden burrows. Small creatures, once overlooked, once insignificant, now scurried into a world ready to be reborn. A world without giants. A world preparing for a new chapter. A world that would one day become ours. Closing. A soft goodnight to ancient Earth. So now, as you close your eyes, imagine a world long before humans existed. Imagine forests of giant ferns. Imagine the thunder of mighty feet. Imagine a warm earth ruled by titans. And imagine their final night, not as destruction, but as a gentle closing of a grand story. Sleep peacefully under the imagined stars of the ancient world that shaped our own.